Ring of Steel, Part 3, Chapter 3. May we come in? It wasn't a request, it was a demand. There were three of them, and they were soldiers, not policemen, with their rifles, helmets, great coats, and seemed to fill the room. You live here? The soldier asked. One of them did the talking, while the others walked around the room as if they were searching for something or someone. My sister does, Muddy said, with her husband, but they have gone away. We're living here now, me, my daughter, and my two sons. My husband is away fighting the Russians. We are looking for a parachutist. There was reports of a parachute coming down not far from here. An enemy, a bomber, was shot down, a Lancaster. British. It crashed only a few kilometers away. We found the wreckage. One of the bastards is here somewhere. So, we are searching every house, every farm. Have you seen anyone? No one, Muddy replied. We are alone here. We only came yesterday, from Dresden. We escaped from the city. There is no city any more, said the soldier. There is no Dresden. There are so many dead. It is impossible to know how many. Bastards, bastards. I tell you, if we find this one, a prison camp is too good for him. We will shoot him first and ask questions later. Someone was shouting from outside, Sergeant! Sergeant! You must come! Come! Quickly! Another soldier, this one much younger, appeared at the door, breathless with excitement. Are you going to believe this, Sergeant? But there's an elephant out there, in this barn. An elephant? Yes, Sergeant. We were searching the outbuildings like you said, and we went to the barn, and there he was. She is a she, said Muddy. She is named Marlene. I worked at the zoo with the elephants in Dresden. She was the only animal we managed to save. The rest had to be shot because of the bombing, and I brought her here to the family farm. I knew of nowhere else to go. The youngest of the soldiers was told to stay with us and guard us while the others went out. Carlyle was about to say something, but Muddy frowned at him. He quickly put a finger to his lips. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in silence. I could not bear the tension. I felt for Peter's hand under the table and found it. We heard them coming back across the yard, their voices loud with excitement. Then they were back in the kitchen. This elephant, is she not dangerous? The sergeant asked. Muddy shook her head. I will look after her, she told them. I have known this elephant ever since she was born, and she is gentle as a kitten, I promise you. And you have seen no airmen, no parachutist? He went on. No, Muddy said. She spoke very coolly. If I saw one, after all they have done in Dresden, I would shoot him myself. Your papers, he demanded. I want to see your papers. I'm sorry. We haven't got them. They're all in Dresden, in our house, said Muddy, shrugging her shoulders. We were outside, out at the park, when we heard the air raid sirens, and then the bombers. We just ran. Names, then, said the sergeant, taking out his notebook. I must have your names. Muddy gave our names, all of us, Peter's last of all. How old are you? The sergeant asked Peter. I sensed the suspicion in his look. I could hear in his voice. 21, Peter told him. So why are you not in uniform, in the army? Peter hesitated. It was Carlyle who spoke up for him. He gets asthma like me, he said. When he gets out of breath, he gets asthma. Everyone at school says when I grow up I can't be a soldier and I want to be a... That's right, Muddy interrupted. My son has been excused military service on medical grounds. Asthma. I was not at all sure the sergeant believed what he was hearing. I felt certain that there would be more questions, but amazingly, there were not. When the sergeant saluted, I remember Carlyle gave him the Hilt Hitlergruß, the stiff-armed Hitler salute we had been taught at school, and said, Hail Hitler! With great enthusiasm and conviction, he was playing his part perfectly. Then the soldiers were gone. I could feel my heart pounding in my neck as I listened to the last of their voices, their laughter drifting away outside. All they were chattering about after they left was the elephant in the barn and the zoo in Dresden. One of them had been for a ride on the elephant in that zoo when he was little, he was saying, and then nothing more. Muddy went to the window to make sure. It is all right. They've gone, she whispered. She came over and sat down at the table with us, her face drained of all color. For several moments Peter and Muddy did not speak, but sat there looking at one another across the kitchen. Muddy took a long breath and said, "You didn't finish your soup, Peter. It'll be getting cold. Eat, eat." Then she fished in her pocket, took out the compass, and pushed it across the table towards him. "Yours, I think." "Thank you," Peter said as he took it, "and for what you did just then. Thank you." "You and I, Peter, we must come to an understanding," Muddy went on. "From now on, no more sorries, no more thank yous. What's done is done. The past is behind us. You are family now, one of us. And I have been thinking you were right when you told Elizabeth we should stick together and help one another. We do all want to go west, away from the Russians, away from the bombing. So we shall go together, and across country, as you said. It will be safer for all of us. Can that compass thing really guide us to the Americans?" Peter smiled. "Yes, all the way. If we can keep going, if we get lucky. But I've been thinking too, and I'm not sure now that it is such a good idea to stick together. I was not thinking straight when I said it. If they discover who I am, I mean, we got away with it once, and we may not be so lucky next time. They will shoot you if they ever find out who I am. You know that, don't you?" "Who is going to tell them?" Muddy replied. "I'm not going to tell them, am I? Nor will Elizabeth, and nor will my son. Like I said, we are family. You speak good German, and you even look quite German in Uncle Manfred's clothes. We fooled them once, with a little help from Carlyle, didn't we? We can fool them again. Maybe you are right. I hope so. But, and I did not want to have to say this, I think there's another problem. The elephant, your Marlene." I could see Peter was reluctant to go on. "Listen. If we take her with us, we are bound to attract attention to ourselves. It will be more dangerous. I think we should leave her here. There's plenty of hay in the barn, and we could fill up buckets of water." "Where we go, Marlene goes," Muddy said firmly. "She is part of our family, too. What does it say in the book? The Three Musketeers, wasn't it? All for one and one for all." I remember Muddy made us all join hands round the table for another family moment, as we had so often done back home. Even Carlyle knew better than to interrupt this family ritual. Maybe he was praying as hard as I was. I was praying for Poppy to come home, for us all to find the Americans, for us all to survive, and for Peter to go on holding my hand as tight as he was, and never let go. But in the end, it was Carlyle, of course, who eventually decided this family moment had gone on quite long enough and broke the silence. "When are we going?" he asked. "How far is it? I want to ride up on Marlene all the way. Can I? Can't I? Muddy, how long will it take till we get there?" We spent the rest of the day poring over Peter's map, making plans, working out how far we could hope to travel each night. Peter thought we could do about 8 to 10 kilometers a night, depending on the weather. And if we kept up that pace, the Americans kept advancing at their pace rate, then he calculated we had a good chance of meeting up with them in 4 or 5 weeks or so. We packed up all the food we could, all we could carry, and put on all the warm clothes we needed. We all had full rucksacks and rolled up blanket straps on top of each of them. We had a last meal, the rest of the potato soup, and some cheese left a note, which we all signed, to Uncle Manfred and Aunt Lottie, thanking them and telling them where we were going. Then we stepped out into the moonlight farmyard to fetch Marlene from the barn. The snow crisp and crunching under our feet, Marlene had to be enticed away from her hay, and that was not easy. But Carl managed it with a few tempting potatoes. Then, once outside the barn, Peter hoisted Carlo up onto her back. and we set off into the night, westwards, Muddy leading Marlene by the ear, Carlyle clicking at Marlene all the while, telling her to gee up. Peter and I walked on ahead together, Peter with his compass in his hand. We were on our way.